happens to 1 in every 10 babies, the sudden appearance of often disfiguring strawberry birthmarks, blotches on an otherwise perfect baby complexion. Nobody has really had a clear idea of what causes them or how best to treat them, but an unassuming doctor from Lower Hutt has joined the dots. And the picture for sufferers, and for that matter medical science, is remarkable. Janet McIntyre with Professor Swee.
He has a gentle touch with babies. A kind voice.
It's a great joy to work with children.
And the skill and courage to create a kind of magic.
We expect this to heal completely over.
We think he's a miracle man.
He can make these disfiguring and sometimes painful and devastating birthmarks shrink, even disappear.
Yep.
Before our eyes, it was shrinking away.
Given our daughter back. She cried for months. It's like amazing to see her smile.
It's life-changing for anyone that's involved.
Professor Swee, remember his name. He's a plastic surgeon, a scientist, a pioneer. Last year, the winner of multiple prizes for his work on birthmarks. And how does he define himself?
I am a dreamer. I like to think beyond what happens now. And I tend to see things in a positive light.
Swee, dreamer. He imagines that by unravelling the mysteries of birthmarks, he'll make another extraordinary discovery that could change the world.
I believe that we will one day find a cure for cancer.
Are you personally going to be involved in that?
Absolutely.
Are you going to drive it?
I wouldn't miss it.
So in your lifetime?
I believe it will happen in my lifetime.
But this story starts in rural Ohakune.
She's all right.
Here, a young couple is grappling with a condition that nearly cost their first baby, Charlie Jean McLean, her sight.
We took her to Plunket and they said it was a blocked tear duct, so just keep massaging and it'll go away.
What started as a small swelling below her right eye just grew bigger and grew fast. The local GP unsure what to do.
Yeah, it got to the point where her eye wouldn't close and she couldn't cry out of that eye.
What they didn't know then was that the purple bulge was a birthmark, a tumour pushing dangerously into Charlie Jean's eye socket. But they feared the worst.
Oh, we basically got to the point we were expecting some sort of surgery where they were going to have to remove something or operate on her for some reason. So.
A month after the lump first appeared and just in time, they were referred to Professor Swee at Hutt Hospital, a man who lives and breathes these growths called hemangioma.
She's a real cutie, isn't she?
More benignly known as strawberry birthmarks, there is nothing benign about Charlie Jean's.
We find out that it's actually right down in her right cheek and that it's in her temple, pressing on her optic nerve, which was very scary to find that out.
The strawberry birthmark was pushing her eye upwards and forward. And if you left it untreated, she would go blind.
He's a plastic surgeon, but Professor Tan's solution for Charlie Jean is not the knife. Conventionally, tumours like hers have been treated with high-dose steroids.
Unfortunately, this is a bit like a sledgehammer, and you have significant side effects associated with steroid treatment.
So he started Charlie Jean on a drug that for strawberry birthmarks is still considered experimental.
Good girl.
Tiny doses of a drug normally given for high blood pressure. It could cause her own blood pressure to drop.
We were worried a wee bit, especially knowing that it could drop that bad that her heart could stop with it. That has scared us a wee bit, so we've been very accurate on how much she gets.
There are potentially high-risk side effects with this drug.
In the process of looking for new and better treatment, there will potentially be harm done to people, potentially. And our responsibility to make sure that we prevent that, or we minimize that, or we deal with it as soon as we notice it.
Charlie Jean is hospitalised for 9 days as she starts treatment. And 5 months on, just look at her now. And no side effects.
It's gone down nearly 100%. at least 99% of it's gone now, which is really, really good.
They're not pretty. Usually they're not harmful, and not a lot's known about what causes strawberry birthmarks. But for 16 years, Professor Swee has been looking at them in awe, looking at the wealth of possibilities they offer for medicine. In laboratories, begged for and borrowed. And when government grants have dried up, digging into his own pockets, years of effort. And until now, his ideas have been dismissed by his international peers.
I'm brave enough to challenge conventional wisdom, and it's not just me, but a group of people that believe in things that are actually current thinking, and against current thinking. But you can't just believe that. You've got to actually show that what you're saying is not nonsense.
Swee is now supported by a small team of multidisciplinary researchers.
This layer is the stacking layer on the gel.
He's always believed there's a close connection between strawberry birthmarks and cancer tumours.
So we're expecting it to be placental. We should see something like haemoglobin zeta in there as well. Yeah. And the EPO.
They both grow fast, cells multiply out of control. But unlike cancer tumours, strawberry birthmarks reach a point where they simply turn themselves off. Even without treatment, cells die and birthmarks over a decade recede and disappear.
How old is she now? It's just like somebody, at some point in time, just turned the switch off.
Professor Tan began by asking himself one simple question, why? But finding the answer would take many stages of research.
I reckon I could figure it out if I try hard.
Why are you so fascinated by this?
Because I believe that if I unlock the mechanisms controlling the growth of that tumour, I could apply the knowledge to other tumours like cancers.
First, he discovered birthmarks were made not just of blood vessel cells as previously thought, but also stem cells, that rich resource that produces life in the womb.
What we're saying is so outrageous, is so against the conventional wisdom.
Next, he discovered the mechanism that causes the stem cells to rapidly multiply and then die.
People thought we were mad.
Then he found he could manipulate that mechanism with a drug, propranolol, usually given for high blood pressure.
And all that's shrunk quite dramatically.
He could make the cells commit suicide.
You're essentially using the tumour's own mechanism to destroy itself.
It's a huge breakthrough. Last year in Brussels, Swee and his team's discoveries were acknowledged with a major award for science, the John Mulliken Prize.
Mesdames, Messieurs, chers amis de l'université.
The international community admitting for the first time Swee of Lower Hutt was onto something big.
When we presented our findings there, a number of them just couldn't believe what we were saying. And on the last day, as we were catching the cab to the airport, one of them said, "I just hope that you're right." And of course we're right.
In a derelict, dusty former hospital ward given to him by Hutt Valley DHB. How did you get your hands on this?
Oh, we had to twist some arms.
Professor Swee has big plans. He's going to turn this into the Gillies McIndoe Research Institute, named after New Zealand's plastic surgery pioneers. He can see it all in his head.
This is going to be the director's office.
To understand just how far Swee will go with all this, you have to understand just how far he's already come. Born in a tiny village in Malaysia, one of 14 children in a house without electricity, they all had to work hard in coconut and cocoa plantations just to survive.
It taught me something. It taught me about resilience, taught me about persistence, because I didn't want to be like my parents, who my mother had no education, my father had partial primary education. They kind of, if you like, stuck in there. And I wanted to rise above all that.
Did you know what you wanted to be?
I wanted to be a doctor. And I do not know how that thought crept into my head, but I thought that a doctor is a sexy idea, and it's so cool, isn't it? So cool. When you're little, it's so cool to be able to be a doctor and help people.
But for a boy who'd grown up as a manual labourer, it seemed an impossible dream.
Somebody said, how can you be a doctor? Look at your hands. And, you know, you can get offended by it, or you can say, well, you are entitled to your own opinion, but I'm going to be a doctor.
So he enrolled at an Australian college in Kuala Lumpur, where he taught himself to speak English.
I had to learn it quickly. And I did it by reading the newspaper from the front page to the last page every day.
How long did it take you to learn to speak English fluently?
I'm still learning, yes, you can see.
The Australian government allowed him to study in Melbourne for a medical degree, but with a string attached.
At the end of my training, I had to leave the country. It was as simple as that. They didn't care where I went. So I had to leave the country. And New Zealand advertised for junior doctors at that time. And so I applied, and I got a position at Waikato Hospital. And my first run was plastic surgery. And I say, wow, I'd like to be a plastic surgeon.
Australia's loss, our gain.
I am very indebted to what was given to me. You know, I was given a citizenship to be in this country.
He still practices as a plastic surgeon at Hutt Hospital. And just after our interview, he ducks out to reattach a man's 3 fingers severed in a skill saw accident.
Are you feeling all right?
It's a 13-hour operation.
And we had to shorten the fingers and then fix it, because we had to get a bone to heal so that you can move them.
But his focus is now research.
And because it's a laboratory, we have to have security and so on.
And it's in his Dream Research Institute, where he believes the unsightly strawberry birthmark will help him understand more about diseases like cancer.
We believe that there's some internal mechanisms that will allow cancer to regress on its own.
That's pretty radical.
It's radical and heretical. Yeah.
Are you potentially talking about no more need for chemotherapy, radiotherapy or surgery?
Potentially.
And it's here he hopes to use the stem cells of strawberry birthmarks to create new blood, tissue, nerves, even bones.
For example, you grow a jaw or a tooth. To create tissues, you know, that is ambitious. You're creating something out of nothing. And what about the rest of these birthmarks? Have they stopped growing?
Who would have thought dots like these could give rise to such big ideas? Swee Tan is moving his birthmark research up a notch. He's now trialling another drug, Captopril, one he hopes will be safer for babies like Madison Quinn of Whanganui.
Good girl.
She has 12 strawberry birthmarks, one painfully ulcerated. What was the pain like for her?
Extreme. She just screamed. You've never seen anything like it. Yeah, you just couldn't do anything for her.
Madison is the first child in the world to try the new drug.
What dose is she on now, Phil?
It's very early days, but the new drug is having an effect. From this to this in 4 months. Pictures taken just this week.
Giving our daughter back, she's happy, you know. She cried for months. It's like amazing to see her smile.
We have to do something for these children, and the question is, what do we do? And if we don't actually look for better treatment, you'll never find a better treatment. And if we're going to push the boundary of medicine, that's what we have to do. We have to look beyond what we got.
It'll cost $3 million to set up the Research Institute. Funds Swee Tan hopes can be raised from the community. Cure Kids and other organisations are helping fund research, but you can also help by going to the Gillies McIndoe Research Institute website, gmri.org.nz, or you can ring Swee Tan direct, 04 587 2506. That's 04 587 2506.